class from the teaching.
Yeah. Okay, we all hooked up? He doesn't hear me. Jai. Shri Chaitanya-charitamrta ki jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Okay. Shri Chaitanya-charitamrta. Life nectar of the surrendered souls. The words from the devotees. The nectarine words from the devotees. Who knows the Sanskrit? Vachanamrita, right? Bhakti Vachanamrita. Now, rejection of the unfavorable. I forgot that too. Pratikulya Vivarjanam. It's a little bit different than the songs. Pratikulya Vivarjanam. Rejection of the unfavorable. Okay. So, we're going to hear from Kulashekar Maharaj. Yes, amazing. Okay, so, yeah, we just... Kulashekar Maharaj was the king in the area of Kerala. He was an Alwar. Okay. He was one of these early Bhakti saints who spoke in the local language. In his case, it was Kannada, I guess.
Okay,
yeah.
No, it's Malayalam.
Malayalam, yeah, Malayalam. Kannada is Bangalore, right? Yeah, Malayalam. Yeah, and most were Tamil. He may have spoken in Tamil, I don't know, because the Tamil kingdom spread that far, so I don't know. But anyway, they spoke in the local language.
We don't hear so much about him, but his slogans in Chaitanya-charitamrta are just so...
Yeah. Well, Srila Prabhupada quoted several of his also. Yeah, we heard from him early times. Okay, so Srila Sridhar Maharaj's introduction, a similar expression of the same ideal, that ideal rejection, the unfavorable, and the Sanskrit, atrapi tataiva, similar expression of the same ideal. Then Kulashekar Maharaj says, O Lord, I have no faith in religiosity, economic development, or sense enjoyment. May all these things come to pass as they are ordained according to my previous karma. But my earnest prayer is that birth after birth, I have unflinching devotion for your lotus feet. So Maharaj Kulashekar is saying that he has no faith in the four activities of development that's there in the sphere of our functioning in the material world. But then he goes on to say, these things may come to pass according to my previous karma, but really, I understand that they're completely secondary, and my real thing is unflinching devotion to your lotus feet. So his faith is fixed in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but yet at the same time he's a king. He's involved in all the things that kings do, and he's just accepting them kind of with detachment. These things are coming. These things are necessary for my proper functioning as a king, but they're not significant in my life. They hold no deep significance. So this is like the function of, the ideal function of Varnashram. Everybody acts within the sphere of seeming material activities, but inside they have full devotion for Krishna, and even though the material activities are going on, the real thing is the devotion. So our lives are like that. You know, every one of us has, we're kind of glued to the material energy in different degrees. And we all function based on that karmic situation that we're placed in. Sambandha jnana means to understand our position in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead only. And of course that means understanding that the environment that I'm in has been given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, Srila Guru Maharaj really emphasizes this. And, you know, it's one of those things that you read through Srila Guru Maharaj's books, and, you know, only after, you know, someone else, like my son, Sudarshan, or yourself, when you read it 10 times, you see what he's really saying. Each time, of course, like any scripture, each time you read it, there's so much more there. You know, Srila Sridhar Maharaj has, you know, just inconceivable, unfathomable depth in his presentation. And, you know, I think because he's completely connected with the transcendental stream of consciousness, that it really is unfathomable. It couldn't go on forever. You know, in terms of understanding and developing and, you know, not only, of course, not only mental or intellectual understanding that's there, but an understanding that comes from the soul's realization and comes back out through the intelligence and the mind. We tend to bring stuff in through the mind and intelligence and process them and think we have something, when in fact the real substance comes from within, and then we channel that inner experience through our intelligence and mind and act in the proper way, or you know, speak according to what we've been given. And you know, like I said before, everybody has been given something, and everybody can speak about that something to, you know, any new person you know, we meet. You know, one person comes and bows down and feels really good and looks at the deity. It's the only thing he's ever done. He can tell someone that. That's substance. And that substance is coming from our gurus. So it's real. It's not, you know, it's not a fake thing. Like, you're a faker until you have all the shlokas and everything else memorized, given by Srila Gurudev, Srila Guru Maharaj, and Srila Prabhupada. No, it's not like that. We're developing an understanding of our own internal development, and based on that understanding of our internal development, we function, you know, according to our nature and according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within our particular circumstance. That's like, you know, understanding the environment, understanding whatever comes as his arrangement, and, you know, good things, happy things, or bad things, sad things. It doesn't, you know, we deal with them, we function with them, but at the same time, there's something greater going on in our lives. And this Ch.ch Maharaj is clearly pointing out. The great King Ch.ch Maharaj, we don't know much about his position, but we know he was a pure Vaishnava, a pure devotee. And it's very interesting. When I was getting Ayurvedic treatment, I was in this rural branch of the Ayurvedic hospital in Coimbatore, and they're out there really close to the Kerala border. So one of my, you know, they have 6 guys massaging me for, I don't know, a couple hours every day. You know, you lay in this oil bath, and they just bomb you with oil, and, you know, I mean, rub it in like you know, not just a gentle massage, but bam, they rub it in really hard. Anyway, one of these guys was from Kerala, and just over the border, and in his village, there was an ancient Krishna temple. They didn't know, well, you know, when it began, where it came from, anything. But it's been there from before anybody knows. And he invited me to come there, but I somehow or other couldn't go there. But, you know, so that was probably from the time of Ch.ch Maharaj, which the Alwars were like from, they estimate like 300 AD to 600 AD or something like that. So a couple hundred years before Ramanujacharya, but really had powerful influence. And, you know, based on their influence, Jamunacharya, Ramanujacharya's guru, and Ramanuja himself and his many disciples of Ramanuja developed a thorough system of Vaishnavism with, you know, the first, excuse me, I forgot to put my things in. The first real answer to the commentary of Shankaracharya on Vedanta Sutra. And the system given by Ramanujacharya was Vishisht Advaita, which basically means it's almost like simultaneous one and difference. It's very, very similar. It's translated as oneness in Advaita in Dvaita. You know, oneness in duality. So their vision is, of course, that Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his consort is Shri, and there's also Bhudevi, who's like the goddess of the earth. I don't know exactly how that works, but there's two representations of, you know, ultimately we know Srimati Radharani. But they have great dedication and devotion to both the female energy and the male energy, you know, similar to us. Whereas Madhvacharya, they worship only Krishna, the Krishna that was found in a giant lump of chandan. Yeah, and it's still, you know, that Krishna is still there, wonderfully, amazingly. And Madhvacharya came about maybe 300 years after Ramanujacharya. So by then Ramanujacharya's system had, you know, divided into two, the cat system and the monkey system. The cat system means the mother cat holds the baby fully. So that's the system that is dependent on full mercy with much less emphasis on vidhi. And the other system is the monkey system, where the baby monkey is with the mother but holds on to the mother, you know, by its own effort. So that there's more emphasis on vidhi in that particular school. But both have their expressions of, you know, deep dedication and realization that you know, disciples of Ramanuja have given, and there's a whole depth of many writings and scriptures and poems and songs like we have. They take a lot of the writings of the Alwars and make songs out of them also. I'm getting a little diverted into this, but it's nice if we understand what the other systems are in India, and understand why Srila Guru Maharaj has given you know, fairly substantial emphasis on the you know, on the South Indian Vaishnavas. Ch.ch Maharaj, I think, is the only Alwar he quotes, but he quotes from Yamunacharya a lot, and I think Vedanta Deshika also, he's either the first generation disciple or second generation disciple of Ramanujacharya, I forget. So anyway, Ch.ch Maharaj is praying, let me just be devoted to you, and everything else is just, you know, going on. So this is like the, you know, as I said, the proper context, the proper, you know, understanding of our ourselves in relation to our environment. It's the environment that is Krishna behind everything that's coming by Krishna, but also the understanding of our particular position and nature and all these things. We have to, we have to take that into consideration and give ourselves a sufficient experience and activity on that level to kind of steady ourselves in our devotional activities. This is, it's something that we learn gradually. We gradually come out with that kind of understanding about, where we're at in terms of our, or at least something, a hazy view of where we're at and who we are and what we need to, like Srila Prabhupada said, keep the body and soul together. Okay, so Ch.ch Maharaj ki jai. I'll do one more. You get into this and you don't want to stop, it's okay. So this is number 4 of this chapter 4, rejection of the unfavorable, the nectarine words of the Vaishnavas, the devotees. This is prayers by the demigods, and Guru Maharaj says everything devoid of a relationship with Lord Hari should be rejected. Hari sambandha hinam sarvam eva varjanyam. Hari sambandha hinam sarvam eva varjanyam. Hari sambandha relationship with Hari. Hinam must be without, Dina, hina, or devoid of, right? Empty. Sarva, eva, varjanyam, everything. Eva gives some emphasis, I think, and rejection, varjanyam. Okay, then, so Guru Maharaj gives a summary of this shloka from the demigods. He doesn't say where it comes from, but the demigods say this. One should not reside wherever the river of nectarian tidings of Krishna does not flow. Wherever Krishna's surrendered devotees cannot be found, and wherever the grand festival of chanting Krishna's holy name is not conducted, even if it is heaven. One should not reside where the river of nectarian tidings of Krishna does not flow. So, clear instruction of the means through which we can find that, that proper balance through which we can develop in the process of giving up the unfavorable. We know that we have a lot to give up, but as we grow in Krishna consciousness, we realize there's a lot of stuff inside that that is going to come to the surface that we have to somehow or other clear away, and it's not always very clear what's going to come next. It just kind of pops up. So the demigods are advising, just be in that place where Krishna is being glorified, and that's part of your daily system. So that's why it's nice for grihastas and others to live at least within reasonable distance from a temple, to come to a temple and get that feeling. And of course, in the home, to have a small temple and have that temple as the center of the home. This can fairly easily be done. But once there, it should be, you know, utilized, like a daily morning chanting, morning and evening, or whatever's possible. But, you know, in that way, the central idea will be, you know, will permeate the atmosphere. If it's just in the corner and not used, then it won't be as potent. There'll still be something there, no doubt. Like we all have, or we all had, deities in our Grihastha household, and in the olden days, we had, you know, Nrsingadev, Gaur-Nitai, Jagannath. Some even had Radha and Krishna. Some even had Govardhan Shila, Shalagram Shila. It was, you know, kind of a little crazy in terms of all the deities, but it also was, you know, kind of nice to have all these different representations of the Lord there, so you can, you know, think about so many different pastimes and activities and, you know, direct mercy that's coming from each individual expansion and incarnation of the Lord, particularly Jagannath. Somehow or other, Srila Prabhupada had a great connection with Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. And yeah, you know, we heard from childhood he pulled the Rath Yatra car and so many things. So in his temples, the first deities that we installed were Jagannath. You know, he was, you know, developing his movement in terms of his surrender to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but also, like we're reading here, particularly in relation to not his material nature, but his spiritual nature. He had a spiritual nature distinct and unique, and based on that nature, he's applying it and giving Krishna consciousness based on that transcendental nature. And so, you know, we see Srila Guru Maharaj has his own nature, Srila Govinda Maharaj has his own nature, and, you know, all the Acharya Brinda, they've got their own nature of, you know, conveyance of the Absolute, which, you know, can be like directly perceived by their disciples, but sometimes not so easily perceived by their god brothers. That's, you know, that's clear from Sri Guruna's grace, but nonetheless revered by the god brothers because of the, you know, the sacred transmission that's going on by dint of their particular depth of surrender. You know, we have deep regard for that. Okay, so, and the demigods are saying, even where we live, you know, you have to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we know that if you go to heaven, it's going to be a problem because there's so much available there. It's a, you know, it's a distraction. And we pray, you know, not to go to heaven, but to go to a place where there are Vaishnavas engaged in Harinam Sankirtan. And I'm kind of like, you know, really beginning to pray like that. And, you know, trying to understand how I can shake off all these attachments and, you know, not be sent somewhere that's not very helpful for development of Krishna consciousness. Who knows, you know, but there's some indication in the Bhagavad Gita that that's a possibility for devotees who have, I mean, you know, it may be devotees who are really fixed and way above me, but who knows, you know, how it works. All I know is that for a long time I've tried, and sometimes I've been like fully immersed 24 hours a day, and other times I've been busy with my own activities that were, you know, based on my particular nature and my particular duty in relation to my family and so on. And anyway, there's been some development of Krishna consciousness. I can feel it, so who knows what's going to happen. Okay. Jai, Shri Shri Prabhupada Jivanamritam Ki Jai. Okay. Chaitanya-charitamrta Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila A.C. Bhakti-vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai. Okay. I have to get a bookmark for this. Okay, so we've read about Brahma, the days of Brahma, the different types of relationships. Absorbed in transcendental love, these servitors engage in different moods. And then Krishna disappears and thinks thus. Okay, that's what we're on. Okay. So, text number 14, Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta, Adi-lila, chapter 3. This is straight Bangla from Kaviraj Goswami, but he's summarizing the Lord's thinking. For a long time, I have not bestowed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. So, you know, here he indicates clearly that the point of the material world is to develop loving attachment for Krishna. And if somehow or other that disappears from the world, then there's no point in the whole like cycle going on and on. It's just like it has no meaning. But the meaning is that if people who are stuck in that cycle begin to see that there's a message from Krishna himself behind all this, the spinning of the samsara wheel and everything that's happening, there's a message from the Lord, and the only way that that message can be perceived is if the Lord, pierces through the coverings of the illusory energy and brings the transcendental stream down to this world. But as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that that he has to descend every now and then. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. He has to descend every now and then to reinforce this understanding, because by the nature of the material world, it always gravitates towards losing touch with reality. That's just the setup of the material world. It's designed, like a prison house is designed to hold prisoners. And, if the warden is away for a long time, things are going to go nuts in the prison. Kind of similarly, the material world, if Krishna is away for a long time, things do go nuts. And Arjuna describes that in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, how, the whole thing is lost, and there's no proper development of spiritual consciousness. So the kids grow up without any touch with spiritual life, and they just become crazy, like is happening all over the world. And I can particularly see that in the States, where there's these huge gangs, and they really have no touch with any notion of spirituality. Maybe they do a few here and there, but it's all very secondary. And they get their nourishment and their kind of distorted rasa through the brotherhood of the gangs, which they never found any kind of, particularly male brotherhood in or male father figure in their, in their childhood. It's a real problem. I think something like some ridiculous figure, like 70% or something of all black families are just the mother and the kids. There's like a disease of reckless abandonment that's somehow taken over the black community. And, what can I say? So much has been given in terms of freedom, but it's been given without an effort to preserve the spiritual content that was there in the organization of the family. In the 50s when I was growing up, the black families, it was segregated, but they were very religious, and the kids were very straight and controlled. I saw this because we played sports and stuff, and over the past 40 years or so, it's just become out of control somehow or other. The almost immediate loss of the presence of religion and spirituality has just led to like complete chaos in the ghettos, and some small percentage, maybe 10%, have become responsible and have gotten out of the ghettos. But that's even worse, because then it used to be in the ghettos the responsible people would be there and the young people would see them as ideals. Now they leave, and the only thing they see as ideals is gangs. So it's really a bad situation. Anyway, so this is what Krishna is saying. If I don't descend, it becomes a mess. And so, we're seeing that practically in the, even the kind of watered down religion that Christianity is today. That was very binding. And I have to say, it probably was more powerful, more powerfully present in the black families than in most, white, like middle-class type families. Religion was pretty secondary, whereas religion was really primary in a lot of those families. So anyway, there are consequences when these things are lost, and Krishna is saying, I have to descend to give pure love, to show pure love, to show the possibility of it. And that's why he brings Vrindavan, and to display what it is. And it's it's the presence of Vrindavan and the presence of the personality of Godhead that kind of resonates, like vibrates all over the planet, and enables people to begin to develop some kind of spiritual inner experience. Whatever the outside label of it is, it has to do with Sanatana Dharma and the development of the soul in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's that's just a fact. They have so many labels that I'm this, I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm this, I'm that, but actually they're all in different. Well, they're devotees, but they don't know it, and in different degrees, they're surrendering in systems that are basically introductory systems. And that's not just a statement of some, weird fanatical cult that thinks they're the greatest. It's just a statement of the realized souls who have a relationship with God. There's a relationship there. It's not just bowing down before a throne. And these great souls know it at. And we see the highest in these other, so-called religions, other people who are experiencing the Sanatana Dharma and the nature of surrender to the Lord. As they approach, they have similar experiences to what our great souls have, but they don't have guides to take them higher. And so Srila Prabhupada told us the Christians go to Brahma Loka, where they get instruction from Jesus himself to go higher. because they can't, right now they can't handle it. They, you know, even the giving up meat is very difficult. So Paul in the Corinthians, because I studied theology, so I did a paper on the early Christians, and almost without a doubt they were vegetarians, and you know, the Christian theologists that I was learning from claimed that, oh, they were vegetarians only because the only meat that was available was offered to the Roman gods, so they wouldn't touch that. That's their claim. But my thesis was they were vegetarians because they saw the necessity, the conscious necessity for development of proper religious consciousness to give up that meat eating. So we see, anyway, we see Paul saying, I myself would not eat meat, and you know, showing some development of realization in that. And there's, you know, there's earlier Old Testament shlokas that are cited to substantiate that. Anyway, so without Krishna's descent, even these introductory programs are, you know, begin to become really diluted, and they become lost. So that's text 14. Oh, I didn't read the Bangla. Okay. Chira kala nahi kodi prema bhakti dana. Chira kala, for a long time. Nahi kodi, I've not done. Prema bhakti dana. Like dana is to give. Like DJ in our Tulsi song is also to give. Bhakti dana DJ. So here, prema bhakti dana, you give that prema bhakti, devotional service, the loving devotion. And then bhakti bina, without that bhakti, without that devotional service, nahi avastana. Excuse me, bhakti bina jagatera nahi avastana. There's no existence, Krishna says, avastana, and Prabhupada translate that as the material world is useless. Jagatera is the universe, or, you know, the material universe. Nahi, the negative, and avastana, existence. The existence is useless. There's no existence. And that's even heavier. That's very direct. Like, the material existence is nothing. The people who are lost in it are just, they're sleeping, they're dreaming. It's like that matrix. They're all like stuck in this, you know, thing where their real self is, you know, under some kind of control. And the false self is living in this world that is illusory. So it's strange how that matrix kind of hit the spot. I suspect they had some contact with Krishna consciousness, yeah. I mean, a lot of those people have had contact. Like, this big critic, he's left his body now, but his name was Roger Ebert. He was like a major critic of movies in the States, like the top. And when he was young, he came in Chicago and interviewed Srila Prabhupada and wrote a brilliant, beautiful article in the, you know, the Sunday kind of People section, you know, on the front page of the People section. And he really glorified Srila Prabhupada and knew something of what Srila Prabhupada was giving. Though maybe occasionally he just popped into the temple like incognito in the back of the room and stuff. But later, when I saw him presenting his movies, on the wall behind him was a picture of Krishna. So, you know, who knows how these things penetrate. And we always hear now and then, oh, this star got a Bhagavad Gita, or this person is involved, and George Harrison's influence was, you know, very powerful. He gave Krishna consciousness, or the idea, at least, of Krishna consciousness to a lot of people. You know, if they couldn't digest the notion of Krishna at least they more and more accepted the presence of an absolute, as opposed to like the raging relativity that's developed in the material world as a result of, you know, in the academic realm, the collapse of any understanding about the presence of an absolute or any acceptance of a presence of an absolute. And based on that, they're kind of right. The material world is pretty relative, you know, but without God, like Krishna is saying here. But with God presence, things become influenced in every situation by that absolute. And the more conscious someone is of that absolute, the less the relativity of the material world affects them. You know, if you're not connected with God, you know, if you think about it, okay, you're just here. What are you here for? You have desire. You want to enjoy. So if there's no God, there's no meaning. So why not do anything? This is like the philosophy of the gangs. I wrote a paper saying that these people are not dumb. They've looked at what they're getting in school and decided to act on that, which is like, okay, there's no God. Great, so let's do anything. Why you know, the academics are thinking, okay, we're going to form a structured society based on no God. But, you know, we saw in Russia, 80 years, it just doesn't work. And look at Venezuela. I mean, what a unbelievable mess. Trying to have a, you know, even a system within the material world without any notion of God, it just is completely unworkable. And, you know, the Soviet Union collapsed, and Venezuela's collapsing, and, you know, Cuba is surviving, but just barely. So, you know, I'm not being political. I'm just stating that, that an atheistic society, even within this world, most often doesn't work. And Krishna is saying like that. You can't get anything. There's no existence. You can't have any civilization without the presence of, without my presence, Krishna. It's a fact. If we look carefully at the root of all, you know, structured civilization, there's God, and there's some notion of varnashram. You know, all over the world, people followed, in the early times, more or less a varnashram system. And, you know, it became very rigid by the Middle Ages, and the lower classes were exploited. But we understand from Bhagavad Gita that the varnashram system, actually, everyone just worked according to their particular nature and took things according to their own requirements in that particular nature. So people, and because the main emphasis was on spirituality, the activities of the people in varnashram, you know, were secondary. So, you know, no big deal if I'm a worker and somebody else is a king or this or that, because the king's trying to be devoted too. That's his main thing. And the fighters are also trying to be devoted, and the businessmen are trying to be devoted. And the higher people respect the lower people, because the lower people are trying, and maybe they're better than me. You know, they think like that. That's, you know, it's almost impossible to like consider that such a society is possible. But, you know, we have information that, you know, it was possible in previous ages. People's consciousness were, you know, much higher and much more developed. And that means, you know, their hearts were automatically, like, way more open to surrender and living a life of surrender. So, anyway, Krishna comes down for that purpose. I'll try and get in one more shloka. So text 15. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees of Brajabhumi. Okay, so he's saying everywhere in the world, these people are following scriptural injunctions. That is, you know, things that, that are dictated by the scriptures, which oftentimes are very rigid and sometimes extreme in their attempts to establish the supremacy of God through structure. And, you know, because of that, there's so much criticism of the, you know, much of the scriptural, ancient scriptural injunctions. But actually they were not so apparently rigid in a society that was much more focused on consciousness and surrender and, you know, real religion. These injunctions were like, again, secondary. They weren't a big deal. They were just kind of directing people how to act in a way that society would function in the best possible way. And, you know, sometimes as they were passed down, also they were, you know, manipulated and, you know, altered in different ways by the, you know, the Brahminical class, so-called Brahminical class, that turned it into a birth system. And so anybody born in a Brahmin family was automatically a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Vaishya, Shudra, Shudra. So, you know, eventually there was a rebellion against that system, and it's understood why. Because they lost the core meaning of it. So we don't really, you know, Mahaprabhu didn't Jai Mahaprabhu, Jai Radha Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. So Mahaprabhu was known, and even today is known amongst like civil rights type people as someone who like broke through the caste system and, you know, openly gave spiritual life to everybody, regardless of their position in the caste system. Whereas, you know, particularly in South India, it had become very rigid, and Sanskrit was only available to the I think just mostly the Brahmins and maybe a few of the upper level Kshatriyas could use Sanskrit, learn Sanskrit, and all the scriptures were in Sanskrit. So that the local people were excluded, but they still did have the, you know, the alwars. And I think there was like 11 alwars. And one of note was Undal Alwar, who was a lady. And she wrote amazing songs. There's a big book of her songs, which, you know, are you know, honored and sung even today in Tamil Nadu. The dialect is like ancient Tamil, which surprisingly enough has a lot of Sanskrit in it. So, you know, how that works, who knows? But because they think Tamil and the South Indian languages developed separately from the North Indian languages, and they believe the people originally were, you know, like anti the Vedas. But we really don't find, that's their theory, because the language is so different. But we really don't find much evidence, or any evidence as far as I know, that there was active opposition to the presence of the Vedic culture, like in the form of Shankaracharya, who drove the Buddhists out, and then Ramanuja and Madhva in the south. You know, we just don't find, we find that they dominated the south, even though the language was different. And before that, also we know of, you know, Ramachandra and the Ramayana, and his presence in the south. And of course there was Ravana, and, you know, some people say all the South Indians are descended from Ravana. I guess the like the elite ones in the north say that, but you know, that's, you know, obviously more BS. That, you know, comes down from olden times when the Brahmins decided to try to you know, grab their position and use it for their own ends. It's really unfortunate, because then naturally people think, oh, the caste system, that is really terrible. It's a remnant of an old time when there was so much discrimination. What it really was, because basically they have no experience of an inner feeling that, you know, dominates any, you know, positional understanding of how you do stuff in this world. It just, you know, for Vaishnavas, it doesn't matter, like Ch.ch Maharaj just said. It's like, you know, you do it, but it's not a big deal. That's, you know, that's pretty much, we get to function in that way as we gradually become purified by the grace of our gurus. They let us do stuff that is based on, you know, particularly each one of us. They have a you know, a particular arrangement for us to develop, and it's all laid out in relation to, you know, Paramatma and where we are in this world. Just like in really high-class schools, you have, you know, the professors and the students meeting and developing an individual curriculum for each student. So, you know, similarly, the gurus do like that. We all get, you know, we're in a high-class school, and we get individual curriculums that are in our hearts, and we just have to access them and follow them as best we can, and we'll get promoted grade by grade. The standard is not, you know, material production, but the standard is, you know, inner development. So, you know, everyone is progressing, and like Gurudev always emphasized, we can't see, but he can see. So in that way, we see something of what is dedication, and we can understand people who are, you know, really focused and engaged and fixed. But we can't really perceive what, you know, what the inner level is, because we're just, you know, we don't have that vision. We're still stuck in the forest. And, you know, the guru is in a, you know, a swan ship above the forest, looking down at us and giving us some direction, like, go stay on that path, go this way, watch out for that tiger. You know, there are those kinds of directions in the heart. Or, you know, go that way, and, you know, you'll be protected. And that's what we have to pray to try to follow and understand what, you know, what God wants us to do, what Krishna wants us to do in every situation. And the really cool thing is that if we really try like that and act, even if we make a mistake, it doesn't matter. Krishna's not like that. You're not going to get an F if you're really trying. Whereas in school, you know, you can really try and get slammed. You know, or you can just kind of glide through it without even thinking about what's going on, you know, depending on your particular nature. But in spiritual life, if you really try, it doesn't matter if you're progressed or anything. If you remember to really try, that's the standard, and you know, you get you know, promoted grade by grade, and eventually reach the you know, the graduate studies that Srila Sridhar Maharaj is teaching, and we get to hear them even in our lower state, and you know, kind of imbibe them as an ideal, and try to allow those teachings to kind of like rain down on our consciousness, and allow us to you know, to grow the creeper of devotion, something like that. So okay, so we'll read the Bengali and then we'll be done. Sakala jagate more kore vidhi bhakti. Vidhi bhakti braja bhava poite nahi shakti. Just like, wow. Everything is self-contained, beautiful poetry, powerful, and you know, how is it possible to have written something like this? So, you know, what's the word? Voluminous. Yes. Voluminous, and or is it voluminous? Voluminous, voluminous. Yeah, I think in America we say that. Yeah, voluminous in England, voluminous for you Americans. So anyway, Kaviraj Goswami is amazing. He's obviously empowered. Like, if you really look at it, how is it, you know, it's just not possible. Verse after verse after verse after verse, beautifully composed, you know, packed with powerful understanding. It's just like, pff, nobody can do that. So, Sakala, all, Jagate, universes, everywhere in the universe, More Korde, to they, those people, Vidhi Bhakti, they're following Vidhi Bhakti all over the universe. That means some sort of formal scriptural injunction. And you find that generally everywhere in religion. You know, there's the Koitava Dharma, which pervades things, unfortunately, and gives the idea of religion as something that's like a business deal with God. You know, I do this and I get that. So I'm doing this to get something from God. And, you know, everywhere, India included, people are like that. But in the midst of it, there is some presence of an ideal of like full surrender. And it's there in different degrees in Christianity and Islam and Judaism. And as, you know, students of really, you know, Paramahamsa Vaishnavas, we've been given enough vision to be able, you know, pretty much to see what's going on with, you know, these various religions in terms of their, like, development of real Sanatana Dharma. A few of them progress through it. Most of them are caught up in the whole idea of, you know, getting something. And the priests, like, facilitate their getting something. And in Protestantism, they facilitate their being well situated politically in the world to help the, you know, help the world become a good place. And that's really what God wants us to do, is what they're thinking. But we know, you know, it's just a dream. You know, you're trying to make a bad dream, which is by nature bad. You're struggling your whole life, giving your whole existence to trying to make a bad dream good. And maybe, you know, you have a little success, but ultimately, so what? It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter. It may make people feel a little bit better about themselves, but it's like still in this world. And maybe they'll, you know, get involved in religion and find some, you know, some bottom line where there's a notion of selfless devotion. But even if you become selflessly devoted to a green planet, you may advance in goodness, and you may have some ability in the future to tap into, you know, real Sanatana Dharma. It's still what's being done is not really ultimately helpful. So, you know, they're all following Vidhi Bhakti in the universe. That Vidhi Bhakti Braja Bhava. Okay. By these Vidhi Bhakti, by these regulative principles, Braja Bhava, the feelings of those in Braja, Paite Nahi Shakti. They can't be, the power of those things cannot be attained. Shakti, power, Nahi Paite, they can't be obtained. Paite, obtained. So by these regular principles, you don't get Brajabhava. And, you know, it's clear, Brajabhava is something that's different, and it comes after the stage of Vidhi Bhakti, and that means the Vidhi Bhakti has cleared away all the crap, and, you know, you're open and free to dedicate yourself fully. That's Bhava. It's not like what you feel in kirtan when you're a conditioned soul. That's the doorway to being a sahajya, is to say, oh, I'm feeling bhava. That's really unfortunate. You know, and it's like a disease that's being caught, even by sincere people. I've seen it. I'm like shocked that, you know, sincere people who are really, you know, wanting to have Krishna consciousness according to their particular level, to not violate the system of progress that's been given by the great souls. You know, to not just, you know, step on their heads and go to something very high. It's very offensive. But, you know, it's what's the word? It's, it means like calculatingly evil and sneaky. What is that word? Insidious, yeah. It's insidious. And, you know, it just creeps in. And I've seen it. It's very unfortunate. We're not having bhava. We're having some, you know, shadow of bhava, no doubt. But to say that is like, you know, it directly does open the door. Oh, yes, I'm feeling bhava. And then, whoa, what do you do when you have bhava? You know, you enter into your Vrindavan relationship. And how do you do that? You find someone who's going to give you the nature of that relationship. And then you get a sahaja guru. And before you know it, you're dressed up like a gopi dancing. It's like, you know, really dangerous. And the whole door is being opened to them pretty much everywhere except Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Madh. And, you know, I must say other sincere Gaudiya Vaishnavas who understand that to follow the line of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur very strictly is the only way we'll keep out of Sahajism. That's Govinda Maharaj has stressed that and said that. Without Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and his teaching, maybe 100 years, maybe 50 years, the whole thing will slide into Sahajism. Gurudev said that. So, the loving devotion of Brajabhumi can't be gotten just by, you know, chanting 16 rounds a day, following the right principles. You can get entry into the possibility of attaining that through, you know, dying to live. But you can't, you know, get this. Krishna is directly saying, and Kaviraj Goswami is conveying it to us. It's just not possible. And, you know, it's a misunderstanding that is prevalent. You know, I was shocked when I saw it when I went to give a talk for Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. It's, you know, it's prevalent. And it wasn't there at the time of Srila Prabhupada. You know, definitely not. We didn't know exactly what it was. And we thought, well, maybe, you know, someday we'll develop to a point where we're really surrendered. But we really did know it was a struggle, would be a struggle. You know, we really did know that, and that's kind of been lost now. Just chant carefully, follow the principles carefully, and everything will come from that. And it's true, but it's not though you jump over the middle stage, which a lot of them are thinking. You know, you just chant your whole life, and then at a certain point you just jump to bhav, and it just isn't true. You have to have no material attachment whatsoever, and be in the stage of nishtha, cleared completely of all anarthas, and then, and only then, do you work on beginning to feel any kind of bhava. Not even after you get rid of all material attachment do you get bhava. You know, what to speak of when you're, you know, attached to, you know, every kind of weird thing in the material world. It's just not, you know, it's not possible. And we've, you know, got that vision by the grace of our gurus, and it really is our obligation to, you know, to convey that. Because this understanding will help, you know, others avoid the, you know, the slide into Sahajism. Guru Maharaj and Gurudev have given us that. And, you know, I really, you know, have to strain to see a vision that is, you know, anywhere close to that. Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj ki jai. Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta Acharya Brinda ki jai. And of course, above all, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta ki jai. So next verse. Oh, right, good idea. Next verse. Yes, Krishna says, oh, you start to know my opulences, then you get into awe and veneration. So I have to, stop that even. And he says, by this kind of devotion is feeble, he says. What's feeble? Aishvarya Ch.ch Preme. Love enfeebled by opulence. Aishvarya. Ch.ch enfeebled, prema, that real love. So it's something of love, but it's like minimized by the notion of, oh, let us worship the Great One. It's nice, and it's way above us now even, but at the same time, it's not what Krishna wants ultimately. And here, Kaviraj Goswami is telling us, this is how it is, folks. Just try for the real, the thing that Krishna wants, not the thing that like you're inspired to do. Try to do like that, and always do things in such a way so that you will progress in Krishna consciousness and toward that stage of final surrender. Okay. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta ki Jai. Kesh. Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namah Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah Gopala Govindara Srimad Sudana Giri Dhari Gopinath Madana Mohan
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Adhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghuna Sanatan Bhakta Jiva Gopala Bhakta Dasa Raghuna Echai Gosai Gauri Charana Vanda Vijnana Savishta Pura Echai Gosaya Mulitanada Echai Gosaya Mulitanada Sabara Paralena Mora Panchaga Mora Panchaga Chandra Charana Sevi Bhakti Saneva Sevi Bhakti Saneva Janame Janame Boe Adi-lila Adi-lila Ch.ch Gosai Ave Vraja Kodeva Sai Ave Vraja Kodeva Shri Radha Krishna Nitya-lila Korila Pukar Radha Krishna Nitya-lila Korila Pukar Ananda Golo Hari Vaja Vindava Ananda Golo Hari Vaja Vindava Shri Guru Vaishnava Parimachayama Shri Guru Vaishnava Parimachayama Shri Pada Padma Koya Padma Koya Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamada Sankirtana Kohe Naratamada Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Jai Saparika Shishi Guru Gauranga Radha Giridhari Ji Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pachila Bhakti Nimala Chaja Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Bhatma Mahamsa Shila Bhakti Sunda Govinda Deva Swami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Bhatma Mahamsa Shila Bhakti Rakakshira Deva Swami Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Panuga Guru Bhaga Ki Jai Jai Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai all the London devotees Ki Jai, all the world devotees Ki Jai, Sripad Bhakti Vigraha Nyasi Maharaj Ki Jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.